All right, let's talk about large language models, or LLMs. You hear that term everywhere, right? But the hype, it so often misses the one question that really matters to any leader. How do we actually turn this cool tech from just a buzzword into a real, tangible business asset? So in this explainer, we're going to cut right through all that noise. We're going to build a clear, strategic framework for making LLMs work for your business.
Couldn't have said it better, Alex. Over the next few minutes, we're going to map out that exact journey. We'll kick things off with the strategic opportunity, then we'll peek inside that so-called black box so you can actually understand the core tech. From there, we'll get into how you get a real return on your investment, how to manage the risks that are, let's be honest, inevitable, and finally, we'll give you a clear roadmap to get started.
Perfect. So, Ben, let's just start at the very beginning. For a leader who's hearing this term thrown around in every single meeting, what exactly is an LLM in simple business terms? And more importantly, why is right now the moment to be paying really close attention?
Okay, so at its core, an LLM is a type of AI that's been trained on just an unbelievable amount of text from the internet, from books, you name it. Through that process, it develops billions of what we call parameters. Now, don't think of these as just entries in a database. It's more like a super complex web of knowledge that lets the model understand context, nuance, and the relationships between ideas. And that's what lets it do so many things, from answering tough questions to writing brand new emails or reports for you.
You know, what's so key about this slide is the huge shift it represents. Think about it. Traditional search, like Google, gives you a list of links, right? And the work is on you, the user, to click through and find the answer. LLM-powered apps, they flip that completely. They do the work for you. They understand what you're actually asking and give you a direct insight or a summary. For any business, that is just a massive, massive leap in efficiency.
Exactly. And this isn't some far-off future thing. This capability is already delivering a real return on investment across tons of industries. I mean, look at banking. LLMs are analyzing transaction data to spot fraud patterns that a human would just never see. In customer service, they're running chatbots that can actually solve complex problems, not just frustrate you. And in the legal field, they're slashing the time it takes to do research and draft documents. The applications are real, and the value is absolutely there.
Okay, so we can all see the value. That's clear. But for a leader to really invest in this, to really get behind it, they need to have at least some idea of how it works under the hood. So Ben, can you walk us through the core pieces of an LLM without making us all feel like we need a PhD in computer science?
I will certainly do my best. So, the first critical piece you need to know about is called the embedding layer. This is really where the magic begins. It takes all the words from whatever you feed it, could be a customer email, a legal contract, anything, and it converts them into a complex mathematical format we call a vector. The important thing is, this vector captures not just the word, but its actual meaning and how it relates to all the other words around it.
You know, the best way I can describe it is like this. The embedding layer is basically a universal translator for your entire business. It takes all that unstructured data you have, emails, reports, customer reviews, all of it, and it converts it into one single consistent language that the AI can actually process and make sense of.
So, right after that, we have what's called the attention mechanism. Now that all the language is translated, this mechanism is what figures out which parts are the most important. So, if you ask a really long, complicated question, the attention mechanism is smart enough to weigh the importance of every single word, which lets it focus on what's actually relevant to giving you a good answer. It's how it understands context.
And that analogy just brilliantly illustrates why this is so powerful for a business. A skilled project manager, that's perfect. It means the model can read a, say, 50-page report and understand that one sentence on page 3 is critically linked to a chart way over on page 45. I mean, that's a level of understanding that just blows simple keyword matching out of the water. So we've got this incredibly powerful general knowledge bank that understands context. But how do we get from that raw power to a tool that can specifically analyze our company's customer sentiment or draft our specific legal contracts? How does it become an expert for us? That happens through two main processes. First up is fine-tuning. This is where you take that general model and you train it on your own specific labeled data. This is what really hones its skills for a particular job. After that, you can use prompt tuning, which is kind of like giving the model specific instructions and a few examples to guide what it does on the fly. You put those two together and you turn a generalist into a specialist for your business.
For instance, let's say you want to analyze customer feedback. What you do is fine-tune the model by feeding it thousands of your own customer reviews that your team has already labeled as positive or negative.
By seeing all those examples, the model starts to learn the specific ways your customers talk, making it incredibly accurate when it has to classify new reviews as they come in.
Okay, the potential here is obviously enormous. But with any powerful new technology, we have to talk about the thing that keeps every executive up at night: risk. What are the liabilities, the challenges that we absolutely have to get a handle on when we deploy this kind of tech?
Right. The number one risk you'll hear about when it comes to accuracy is what the industry calls hallucinations. This is when the model just makes something up. It produces an output that's factually wrong or just nonsense, but it presents it with complete and utter confidence. Since its main goal is just to predict the next logical word, it can sometimes create falsehoods that just sound plausible. And for a business, that is a huge, huge risk.
So that's the crucial question, isn't it? How do we stop that? If we're using this to talk to our customers or to make financial decisions, the output has to be trustworthy. How do we guarantee accuracy and protect ourselves from that liability?
The answer, and this is truly non-negotiable, is human supervision. Look, LLMs are incredibly powerful tools, but they are not autonomous employees. You can't just set it and forget it. Especially in high-stakes areas, we're talking legal, finance, healthcare, you absolutely must have a human in the loop in your workflow. The AI can write the first draft, it can do the initial analysis, it can handle 80% of the work. But a human expert has to provide that final layer of quality control, period.
And beyond just hallucinations, leaders have to have a few other major risks on their radar. Security is obviously huge. You cannot risk leaking private training data. Then there's bias. If your training data is biased, the model will be too. And of course, there are huge legal questions around consent and copyright for the data you use to train these things. These are not just tech problems. They're fundamental business and compliance challenges.
Ben, this has been incredibly clear. We get the opportunity, we get the tech, and we get the risks. So for the leader out there who's ready to move forward, what's the playbook? Let's give them that actionable, step-by-step roadmap for adoption.
Okay, here it is. Step 1, and this is the most important. Don't start with the tech, start with the business case. Find a high-value problem you really want to solve. Step 2, get your data ready. It has to be clean, relevant, and absolutely secure. Step 3, use that great data to fine-tune a model for your specific task. Step 4, and we just talked about this, deploy it with a human in the loop. And finally, Step 5, monitor its performance obsessively, manage your costs, and then scale up what works. It's a very deliberate, phased approach, not a magic bullet.
And that really brings us to the final and most critical question that every leader should be asking themselves right now. This technology, it isn't science fiction anymore. It is a competitive tool that's being put to work as we speak. So as the slide asks, your competition is already making its move. What's your first strategic move going to be? Thanks for joining us for this explainer.